Yeah, they're independent contractors, but is that really how you treat them? That's what we're going to be talking about today on Brokerpreneur Podcast. Running a brokerage is hard work, so whether you're focused on building your own sales pipeline, hiring the best agents, leveling up your team's production, or protecting culture you've built, you're in the right place. Real estate brings the challenges, and we share the solution. Welcome to the show dedicated to broker entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Brokerpreneur Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Brokerpreneur Podcast. I'm Dr. Ben Spears, the Doctor of Flow. Turn my mic down just a little bit. I'm here with the big guy as usual. What's up, Matt?
Just living the dream, man. Living the dream. Yep.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think about, what's going on this time of year. Because you never know when this episode is going to come out. We're a few weeks ahead, but guys, April showers bring May flowers. Right. So, Matt, what are we talking about today?
Yeah. So we know that agents are independent contractors, right? We know that recruits are independent contractors.
Yep.
Sometimes if we treat them too much like an independent contractor, and we don't treat them enough like like somebody that's actually working under our guidance and our leadership, we end up having them kind of splintered away from what we're trying to accomplish, and it's tough to reel them back in. So we're going to talk about how to kind of set that tone when we're meeting with them from a recruiting standpoint without scaring them off.
I like that. Yeah. So we look at it, we're taking a little bit of a different turn today, and we're talking about recruiting. I like it. Perfect. Guys, before we dive right into it, head on down to the links in the description below. Click on the one that says Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Society. That is a mastermind that Matt and I do every single Friday from 12 Eastern Standard Time to 1 o'clock. Brokers from across the country, podcast listeners come. We have a lot of fun. We talk about all things growing a brokerage. We'd love to see you there. But you got to register to get the Zoom link sent to you. So, or I'd send it to you if I just knew where you were magically, guys.
Right.
So, Matt, I am a recruit.
Right.
And I'm sitting down with you.
Yep.
And we're talking about me joining your brokerage, and you want to have this mindset,
right?
Of independent contractor. I'm still gonna be leading them and doing those things. What does that look like?
Yeah, do what the hell I told you. You're not going to succeed. No. All right.
Sign here.
All right. That's right. Okay. Podcast over. Ready, break. Oh. So we got to be careful, right? Yep. I mean, the key is, we want them to be there in part because of our leadership.
Yes.
Okay. It can't be everything, because then they don't take a step without you, right? That's the difference between, a codependent agent, interdependent, and independent agent, right? We talk about that all the time.
Yep.
This is you being able to have leadership, being able to let them know that you're there to guide them, be there to help them make the decisions that they need to make. And as a recruit, you got to get that point across without scaring them thinking, man, this guy's going to be looking at every one of my files before, I submit it to my, whoever it is and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find that happy medium. We're trying to find that balance. First place you have to start is your own personality. Okay. So there are some people that believe that if they don't have 100% of the people show up to their sales meetings, that everybody in the office is rebelling against them.
Right.
Okay. And
or they're failing.
Or they're failing. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And then there's some people like, well, I'm going to hold the meeting. I don't care if anybody shows up. And then most of the majority of people are right there in the middle. Okay. Yeah. That's we know that that's the truth of it. How do you get the point across to a recruit? I want you to be there. And it's part of our culture. It's part of who we are. I want you to be there, but it's not something that you have to be there, but it is going to benefit you from being there. The way that we do that is, one, by making sure that they know that whatever it is that they're engaged with us on is going to benefit them. So many times, I would see, people and brokers that we deal with and brokers that I've worked with before and everything, they send their email out that talks about their sales meeting. Okay. And the discussion really isn't about the benefit that somebody is going to get from going to their sales meeting.
Right.
It's really about the logistics of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So keeping that in mind, knowing that's not the best way of approaching it. Okay. From what we're talking about, keeping that in mind, that's the same thing that you would do with a recruit. Don't sit there and talk about the logistics of why they need to be connected with the things that you do in your office.
Yeah.
Instead, talk about the benefit of those things being connected in their office. So an example, you're sitting there with Betty Sue, right? And Betty Sue is a co-op with Billy Bob. She knows Billy Bob. Billy Bob's productive. Betty Sue's productive. When you're sitting down there, you say things like, I'm excited about having you, if you decide and I decide, I'm excited about having you as part of the team because Billy Bob, he's really engaged in what we do. And he contributes that to part of his success, but I also contribute that to the part of the success of the office. So if Billy Bob's in here doing that and you're in here engaging the same exact way, that helps not just you with your business, but that also helps the other agents in the office with the business. What do you, Betty Sue, what do you think of that? And so now you can get their take on whether they want to be engaged with stuff like that. Notice I didn't say you need to show up, and if you don't show up, you suck, right?
Yeah.
But I said, you get the benefit from it. Other people get the benefit from it. It puts them in that leadership position. It puts them in that leadership role. It compares them to other people that they know are successful. It helps them see that what they're doing is only going to raise their status, is only going to raise their results, and is only going to help them get better at what they do. Because the truth is, whether it's your meetings or whether it's your coaching or whether it's the other things that you do that they should be participating in, but normally they aren't, if you don't convince them that it's for their best benefit and show them the results that they get by doing that, they're going to default by what is most comfortable with them, which is what they've been doing all along.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I look back at, I'm just trying to go back to my perspective because, I was a part of a few different brokerages before I, landed and ultimately, am still with the one that I was with. And I was a very independent agent. I didn't necessarily want too much help in anything. If I come to questions with you when you're my broker, I annoyed you to death with questions. But I look and I say, okay, well, there were some sales meetings, and I was, I didn't go to sales meetings and that kind of thing because I was just like, man, I'm so busy. I'm just working on this. I'm working on this. And I'm working on this. Mm-hmm. And I look back only because, of just what you were saying. And I'm like, man, I kind of wish I went to some sales meetings. But the brokers that I was with never really, I would say, displayed the value.
Yeah, it was the logistics.
Yeah, they never really displayed the value of
Tuesday at 2:00.
Yeah, exactly. It was like everybody's going.
Right.
And so with my experience of my experiences through high school and college, if everybody was going, I'm probably not going to go there.
Right.
And so that's really interesting. It more, this has nothing to do with you listeners. This is all about me now. But it really makes me think it was just the logistics. I would go to a meeting here and there, that kind of thing. But, it was just the logistics. It was like, here it is. There were definitely times when it was, why didn't you come to the sales meeting, man? Mm-hmm. Why didn't you come to the sales meeting, man? Yep. And I'm almost be made, never saying man, it was a bad thing that you didn't. Right. But there was that sense of man, I should feel guilty.
Right.
That I wasn't there.
Right. Yeah, that was the broker superpower.
Yeah, which made me not want to go even more.
Right.
The next time, because I was like, man, I don't want, if he's giving me guilt not being there. Right. What if I didn't close the deal that month?
Right.
Is he going to bring that up? Tell me I'm trash right there in front of everybody. I don't know, but yeah, I don't necessarily know where I was going with that. As much as it really made me think, right, what you were talking about. So. Yeah. Continue on wherever you want to go, man.
Yeah, I hear you. So the next piece to this is, define. You got to have some clear expectations.
Yeah.
Right. And you gotta and you have to have some performance standards.
Yeah.
Now there are some people that will go off the rails with this, right?
Yeah.
And then there are some people that will do absolutely nothing about it. There's no performance standards whatsoever. Right. Yeah. So the way that I approached it wasn't like you have to do this many transactions. We had a lot of people that tried to always pressure and burden us with, go to your roster, and if they're not doing this much business, you better coach them up or get rid of them or whatever. And then 3 days later on the recruiting call, they're saying, how come your agent count isn't where it needs to be, right? So
yeah.
So there's a balance to keep between the two of those. When it comes to performance standards, I was always especially when I realized that there was a term for it, because until 40X, I didn't really realize there was a term for it. But I was really focused on what I considered lead measures instead of lag measures.
Yeah.
And so when you're sitting down with a recruit, talk to them, say, hey, listen, I really want you to be able to succeed, and I want you to be able to go to the next level. But I'm not going to sit down behind you and look over your shoulder and make sure you're writing 800 contracts, because of 800, then 50% close and all that kind of stuff. That's just not how I manage. But what I would like to do is check in on a regular basis just to see if you're doing the activities that I know is going to make your business grow forward.
Yeah.
Right now when the recruit hears that, they're like, okay, so there's some structure to this. I am going to get some guidance on this, but they're not going to be looking over my shoulder. Or they're going to say, well, hey, Matt, I don't really need that, right? My production is at this level. That's not really something I need to make me go to the next level. So, I don't necessarily need you to even ask that much.
Yeah.
But now you're having that conversation in the recruiting, in your recruiting interview, without you having to be overbearing, without you having to say, well, here's my minimum performance standards. Because it's a bait and switch. If you're sitting there in the meeting with them and you talk to them and you hire them, and then after you hire them, you go, oh yeah, by the way, here's the minimum performance standards. I know I didn't talk to you about this, but here's a bait and switch on this, right? And part of that is just because somebody wants to feel good about about what they say that they've got, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then some of it is really focused on trying to help people grow and get better. Well, that has a lot to do with the manager and the broker owner and how they look at their business. But that means that conversation has to be had as they're making their decision, not after they've made their decision.
Yeah.
Because what happens at that point is you've changed the terms of what you agreed to.
Yeah. You're like, I promise you this.
Right.
But also this later on.
Right. Yeah. I promise you this, but oh, by the way, here's the cost.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So, with that being said, right, if you're defining those clear expectations and your standards,
mm-hmm.
well, things change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? We know things change. So that leads us to, we need to go and, assess on a regular basis. Right. That brings me to another question. Let's say you were going to implement 2 years later some minimum performance standards or whatever.
Yeah, rock on. I love it.
Right. Well, now you're going, how do you do that? That's maybe in a whole new podcast.
Yeah.
How do you go to those people and be like, hey, 2 years later, or do you just say your grandfathered in? These aren't for you?
Depends on your brokerage, depends on your policy, what you're trying to accomplish. There's a lot of different ways. To approach that. So first of all, your policies and procedures, your standard operating procedures, or whatever it is that you call in your state that should be accompanying your independent contractor agreement, that should outline how you can make changes.
Okay.
So that should define, hey, changes can be made. Yeah, changes can be made this way. But they're a 1099 employee, right? So you got to be really careful with performance standards, right? And here's here's what I would say about performance standards. Okay. As soon as you hold one person to them and another person not to them, you open yourself up for discrimination issues. Period.
Yeah.
End of story. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that has always been my biggest issue with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now
all or none.
Yeah, that's right. You can say, hey, I'm going to hold people to this, but unless, if you're not going to hold them to it.
Yeah.
Or two, if you're going to hold some people to it and not other people to it, you run into there's some problematic pieces to that.
Yeah, you can't let Betty Sue go because she didn't close any deals in the last quarter.
Right.
But then keep Billy Bob, who also didn't close any.
Right. Or fire one and keep the other one. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just put them on probation or change their commission split or something like that. Right. You got all those things that, are things that people could do. The brokers could do. They have the right to do it. But if you do it for one, you got to do it for everybody else.
Yeah.
On a team, if you're a team leader, I think this is probably a little bit easier with a team leader than it is a brokerage. But again, you can absolutely do it. But these are the type of things that impact your growth. One, because you need to talk about it in your recruiting meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's going to impact that, right? Because before they see the total benefit of being connected with you, they're getting some of the bad news.
Yeah.
They don't get all the good news, but they're getting some of the bad news.
Makes
right?
sense.
And then, but the other part is, when people leave, or if you have a conversation with somebody and you let them go, or you put them on probation, or whatever the deal is, because you're holding them to that. Now all of a sudden, word travels fast.
Yeah.
And so when word travels fast like that, where the word travels to, when the fire is loose, it doesn't care what it burns. Right.
Right.
And so what that means is, when that person leaves, there's nobody checking them for accuracy in their story.
Right.
Right. They're just going to go out there and say, no, man, he walked up to me and kicked the door in my office in and he said, you suck, man. Get out, you piece of crap. Right. That's how the story's going to go. So that's what spreads. Okay. And of course you can say, well, I'm out there spreading the other side of that. Okay. I hear you.
Yeah.
Right. But I think, I think just be careful with, how hard you're pushing and telling an independent contractor exactly what they're doing, especially if you're not willing to do it with all of your independent contractors.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough to put out that fire sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, the last thing, and I kind of hinted on that just a second ago, is we need to regularly assess and take the feedback, right? Mm-hmm. So we're talking about, treating these agents, as independent contractors, still being a great leader, looking at our policies and procedures and that kind of thing, and saying maybe these are the changes that I want to make as the leader. But we need that feedback also from the agents to say, I want to make these changes as well. Yeah,
absolutely. So some companies, what they do is they send out an annual survey to their agents, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah, agreed.
Some of them do it more often than that. The people are in coaching, right? And so you're asking questions whenever you're in coaching. You're asking consistent questions to make sure that you can have measurable answers, accurately measurable answers. But what that basically all boils down to is you're gathering the data from the troops. Mm-hmm. The boots on the ground. You're getting that data, you're bringing it back, and you're comparing it to what it was that you were trying to accomplish.
Gotcha.
Okay. And so that means that you just need to regularly assess what it is that people are talking about from a standards of practice standpoint, or from a, what you can help them leverage of what you do in their business in order to move their business forward. That's part of your survey as well, right? What is it that you use that we're doing? What is it that you're not using? You can take a look back at that and go, okay, well, I don't need this program anymore because 4 out of my 800 people are using it, right? And so, you keep all of that in account. That's a great conversation to have with a recruit. Hey, Mr. Miss Recruit, I just wanted to, on a regular basis, we're going to go through a survey. Let me give you a couple of examples. 3 years ago, we used this program and we tried it for 2 years, but both years at the end of the year, when we got the survey back from the agents, the survey came back that people weren't using it. They didn't see the value in it. Well, we didn't continue to force them to use that. We said, we're going to make that cut at that point and do something different. So now we no longer have that service. We've replaced it with this. And so far the results are getting better. I appreciate that feedback and engagement from the people that are in my office. That's part of the reason why we need to have a give and take in our relationship, is because we really want to hear what's working for you, because we want to help you do it more effectively. Yeah. You start having that kind of conversation with them, and they're going to appreciate that you as the leader are getting that boots on the ground interaction to help make decisions that are going to impact the entire office. And when they see that in action, they hear about it in the meeting, and then they see about it in action, and they have a way that you can tell, that you can prove to them that you're reassessing it, meaning the surveys and things like that. At that point, they're going to realize that although they aren't an employee, and they are just an independent contractor, that you're actually taking into account their expertise. And when you do that, they're more willing to share their feedback and their engagement and what they do with the things that you offer. And it builds the rapport and the relationship with them. They're willing to lean in on that stuff. So now when you decide to launch a new CRM, you've got certain people you can go to and say, hey, listen, we're getting rid of this. We're going to do this, but I really need you to try to buy in for this amount of time. You tell the recruits the same thing. Hey, we're moving away from this. We're doing that. This is something we're going to do. And it was based on these decisions. All of a sudden, everybody feels like they're part of the solution. When that happens, that shows them that you're having structure in your business, but it is not a type of structure that is overbearing or forced on them. It's a type of structure that says, hey, we're doing these things this way because we know it's going to be the benefit for you.
Yep, I like that a lot. Cool thing about a survey too, before I put a little bow on this, is, the people that fill it out, well, gosh, they fill it out and they let you know their 2 cents. The people that don't fill it out, you can always say, like, why didn't you tell me? I got rid of that program and you use it.
Right.
I sent out a survey.
Right.
75% of the office filled it out.
Right.
man, I wish I would have known that. Yep. And so there's a lot of good things about good things about surveys, and they're too easy to do. Not to do.
Absolutely.
And so you can get ChatGPT to make questions for you. If you need to.
Send it to somebody on Fiverr for $8, and they'll have it ready in Google Forms that afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great little tip, Matt. I like that. I like that a lot. Anything else?
No. There's again, like always, there's more that we could talk about, but I think that's kind of enough to kind of get and keep people moving.
I like that a lot. I completely agree. Well, guys, before we sign off here, make sure you go to the links in the description below. Click on the Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Society and register for that. We would love to see you this Friday or next Friday, where we talk about all things growing a brokerage, 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. It's absolutely free to attend. I can't say that enough. We have a lot of fun. We don't sell anything. We just really kind of go there and we mingle with the brokers.
Yep,
Matt?
Absolutely.
We do that and everything else that we do for one reason alone. Tell them how it is.
Man, we just want to be part of their win.